EFS service. So VPC, again, it's a very important service that you have. VPC is all about your networking. All right. So we've looked at that. Um, okay. Post that, we also looked at your EFS service, which is your elastic file system. So if you want to like create a common storage um, with your EC2 instances, we can make use of your EFS for that. So we looked at that as well. Now, the next service we are going to look at is your CloudFormation. All right. So tell me, do you have any idea as to what is infrastructure as code? Anyone?
No, but I've heard about, like, and I've seen in the pictures, infrastructure as code is one of the in the roadmap.
Yeah. So until now, we have been doing everything manually, right? So, launching an EC2 instance or creating some S3 buckets or creating a VPC. Basically, everything we have been doing manually. Now, let's say, for example, you have a requirement where you want to launch 10 servers. So, what we will do is one way is obviously we can go and do it manually, right? Now, let's say again after a week you get the same requirement. All right, so you've been asked that, hey, I need 10 more servers for my XYZ requirement. Now, instead of doing it manually, now the whole thing, the whole problem with your manual thing is one, obviously it is very time consuming, right? So the amount of time that you need to put in to set up the infrastructure is very long, and also there's a high chance of messing up. So let's say you're setting up the environment for, let's say, a prod environment for your dev environment. So likewise, you're setting up the infrastructure for different environment. Now, because we are doing it manually, there's a high chance that we might mess up. Either we miss the configuration or we miss some details in the infrastructure setup. Ideally, we miss out on something. Now, how do we overcome that? Now, that's where your infrastructure as code comes in. Now, your infrastructure as code is simply setting up your infrastructure by writing some piece of code. So instead of doing it manually, you will be writing a one-time code. And whenever you need the infrastructure, you will simply run that code, which will set up the infrastructure for you. Now, what are the advantages of this? One is obviously the time taken to set up the infra is much lesser now. All you have to do is run that script, and that will take care of setting up the infrastructure. And every time you set up the infrastructure, you can be 100% sure that you will get the same configurations. There's no change in the configuration unless you modify the code. So that is where your infrastructure as code comes in. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Now, whenever we talk about your infrastructure as code, we have lots of tools that are available. Any tool that you've heard when we talk about your infrastructure as code?
Ansible.
Okay, Ansible is not really a infrastructure as code tool, but yes, that can also be used. Have you heard about Terraform?
Docker tools.
Have you heard about Terraform?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes,
So Terraform is a very popular or a very famous, one of the top infrastructure as code tool you have. In my current project also, we are using Terraform to set up the infrastructure. Likewise, in AWS, AWS has its own service which can be used to set up your infrastructure as code using CloudFormation. So CloudFormation is a service that we're going to look at next. So in AWS, whenever you want to set up the infrastructure using code, you can set up that using this CloudFormation. So it's a service in AWS which can be used to set up your infrastructure, right, by writing some piece of code. All right. Now, there might be a question: why do we go with CloudFormation if you all sorry? Why do we go with Terraform if we already have CloudFormation? Now, the CloudFormation, it is restricted to only one cloud. All right. So CloudFormation can work with only with AWS. You cannot use it with any other cloud. Terraform, it's your multi-cloud platform. You can use it anywhere you want. AWS, Azure, GCP, any cloud platform you want, you can use it. So it has a lot of flexibility when compared to CloudFormation. However, if you want to go with CloudFormation, you can use that also to set up your infrastructure. All right. So CloudFormation is a service that helps you to model and set up your AWS resources so that you can spend less time managing these resources and more time focusing on your application that runs in the AWS. So the whole point of this is instead of spending more time in your infrastructure setup, you can spend more time in your application development. So with this, you'll be creating a template, which is nothing but your code. And this template will have all the details as to what all resources you want. All right. And AWS CloudFormation will take care of provisioning and configuring those resources for you. Because just give me 1 minute. Sorry. Okay, sorry guys. Yeah, so with this, basically you create a template, which is nothing but your script. All right. So the code that you want as part of your infrastructure. Now the code looks something like this. So you can write this code either in the JSON, or you can write this in the YAML. Okay. So either way, you can write the code. So here I'll share this link where you should be able to find some examples. So here, if you see, these are some of the examples I have. All right. So you can, what happened? So Sedul left. Okay. So here you have this couple of YAML files, and I also have this JSON file. Uh, like I said, you can use either of this. You can either write the code in the JSON format, or you can write it in the YAML format. Now here is a simple example, which is for launching an EC2 instance. All right. So here I have around 62 lines of code, and using this I can launch one EC2 instance. Now either I can use this to uh, so in this case, we are creating one security group, and then I'm launching an EC2 instance. All right. Now again, you don't have to really worry about this if you don't know how to write this code. You have the documentation available for this. You have example codes available for this. So it's totally fine if you're not comfortable, or you know, you don't know how to write this code, you have examples available for this which you can use to write the code. All right. Now, so like I said, you will be creating this template which is nothing but your code. So here you'll be giving all the instructions as to what do you need as part of your infrastructure. And then when you execute that, your CloudFormation will take care of provisioning and configuring those resources for you. So it will execute this code, and whatever you have given here, it will start creating those resources for you, and it will start managing those resources for you. You don't have to individually create and configure AWS resources and figure out what depends on what. AWS CloudFormation handles all that for you. So everything will be taken care by CloudFormation. CloudFormation will start managing this infrastructure for you. All right. So when you work with the cloud formation, you work with templates and stacks. Now template is nothing but your code, and stack is nothing but your collection of resources. So multiple resources together, we call it as your stack. So your template, it's a JSON or a YAML formatted text file, and CloudFormation uses these templates as a blueprint. So that is what your CloudFormation uses to understand as to what infrastructure it has to create or what resources it has to create. CloudFormation uses this YAML file or the JSON file to create those resources for us. All right. So when we use CloudFormation, you can manage resources, related resources as a single unit called a stack. You can create, update, and delete a collection of resources by creating, updating, and deleting stacks. All the resources are defined by the stacks CloudFormation template. To create those resources, you create a stack by submitting the template that you created, and CloudFormation provision all the resources for you. Does this make sense? Any questions?
So
No,
there's
sir.
something generator. So was it generated using those things?
Which one? Which one?
The code.
No, we have to write this code. Now, in CloudFormation, we have a service called, inside this CloudFormation, we have something known as Designer. Now,
Okay.
the advantage of this Designer is that you can draw the architecture, and your CloudFormation will automatically generate the template for it. It won't be like 100% of the code, but 50 to 60% of the code will be generated automatically, and then you'll need to fill in that. For example, let's say we are talking about VPC. Let's say so. VPC. Let's go to EC2. Okay, so there's my EC2, and under EC2, let's say I'm looking for VPC. Okay, so I'll drag and drop it, and here it will generate the code for you. Now let's say YAML. Now, like I said, it's not 100% code. These properties, if you see, you will have to fill in these properties. Okay, but the high level code, so the type of resource and these properties, you will need to start filling in. Now let's say inside this VPC, you want subnets. So let's say I have, will take one subnet, and let's say I want one more subnet. So here is another subnet. So I have two subnets now. So let me show this template. So here, if you see, I have the code. So this resources section, that's what it defines. So here is my VPC. This is one of the subnet. This is another subnet. And if you want, you can modify it over here itself. So let's say this is my custom VPC. Okay. So we'll refresh this. Okay, so there is, you can see my name is updated. So you have the option. So here you can start filling in the details as to, you want this. So let's say this will be my public subnet, and this will be my private subnet, right? You can start filling in. Again, like I said, it's not 100% code that gets generated for you, but to a certain extent, the code gets generated for you, and you can start manipulating it the way you want it. Now, let's say inside this, I want one instance. So there's one instance for me. Likewise, I'll have, let's say, one more instance over here. Right? So again, you can see here the code it's generated, right? But again, like I said, it's not 100% code. To a certain extent, the code gets generated, and you will need to, at some point you will have to modify the code the way you want it. Does that make
Oh,
sense?
yeah. So in I noticed there was only JSON language that was used, but here I noticed there are two languages, JSON and YAML. So
Yes.
what is the advantage of YAML over JSON?
Now, see, I personally prefer YAML because it's very simple to code. JSON, it's more like a Java, so you have to be very careful with your commas, your curly braces, and all. So if you see here, JSON is all about your curly braces and commas. Okay.
Okay.
YAML, you don't have such things. It's all about indentations. Okay, the
Oh,
spacing. That is what you have to worry about. The other thing with your JSON is you cannot give any comment.
okay.
Okay, you cannot write any comments, but in the YAML, you have the option of writing a comment as well. So something like, let's say, this period of code is having an issue. So I can simply comment it out. But in the JSON, that is not possible. I'll have to like delete that piece of code and then rerun it.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah, got it. Thanks, Ramesh.
Yeah. So this is one option, but again, you have to be, super experienced with designing this architecture. But if you don't know this, then you will have to like, write the code and set up the infrastructure. Make sense?
Yeah.
So let me show you an example. So here this code, let me tell you what all I have in this code. Right. So it's 3 lines, it's not mandatory, but generally we use this to specify that, okay, this is the beginning of your script, this is the beginning of your code. All right. Then we are using this. Now, this is a default thing that we give, AWS template format version and the value. So this is something default that we give. So it's basically a syntax that we have to pass. Suppose that we are giving it a description as to what exactly this template will do, and then there are few things that you can provide with this. The sections, when we talk about a cloud formation, you have the parameters sections, you have the resources sections, you have mappings, and you have the outputs sections. Okay, so these are the different sections that you have within your cloud formation template. Now, not all of them are mandatory. Based on your use case, based on how you're writing the code, you can make use of this. Now, parameters are nothing but these are your existing resources. So if you want to refer any of your existing resources, so when I say existing resources, let's say for example, is an existing resource. So you already have that resource available in your EC2. Now you just want to refer that. You just want to use that. Then you can make use of your parameters. Likewise, let's say you already have a subnet. All right. So here, for example, let's say this is my key pair. So I already have this. Let's say keeper. I just want to reuse this. Then I can make use of your parameters for that. All right. So here, if you see, I'm using the key pair, I'm giving it a description and then the type of resource, and I'm also giving it a constraint telling that it must be a valid key pair. So if I pass a key pair that is not existing, it will throw me this error telling that it must be a valid key pair. Likewise, I'm giving the instance type, I'm giving the subnet and the AMI to use. All right, so these are all your existing resources. All right, and then I'm going with the resources section. Now, any new resources that you want to create, you provide that in the resources section. Okay, so here we are creating a new security group. So we are giving the description, the type of the resource, and we are filling the properties. So here, if you see, I'm giving this ingress. Ingress is nothing but your inbound rules. So here, this is one rule, this is the second rule, and this is the third rule. And then I'm launching one EC2 instance. So again, the description, the type, and then I'm filling the properties. Now for the properties, if you see, now generally when we talk about your EC2 instances, see, for you to write this code, you should be comfortable with creating these resources manually. Now, if you know how to create these resources manually, you can easily write the code for that. So now I know that when to launch an instance, I need an AMI, I need an instance type, I need a security group. So we provide those informations over here. Now for this image ID, if you see, I'm using this ref. Now this is nothing but we are calling a variable. What is the variable name? This is a variable name, and this variable name is available over here. So I'm telling it to use the AMI ID that I've provided over here. Likewise, for the instance type, again, I'm calling the variable and I'm telling that, hey, there's a variable that I've defined over here. Go and take the value from here. Likewise, for my security groups, I'm telling, hey, there's a group that I've defined. Go and take that security group. And likewise, I'm defining my tags. Make sense?
Got it.
Yes, sir.
So now let's say we will execute this code. Before I do that, let me take one AMI for this example. So the AMI that I have in the code, it's a very old AMI. So I'll have to take, let's say this one. I cannot copy it from here. Okay, so let's I'll take this one. Save this. Now, how do we execute this? So all you have to do is go to the CloudFormation, click on Create Stack, and your template is ready, or you want to use a sample template, or you want to create a template using this designer that I showed you, this option. So in our case, the template is ready. Now, where is the template available? Is it is an S3 bucket or on your local machine? So in my case, it's on the local machine. We'll choose the template that we've just created. That's the template. And this will validate. All right. Now you also have the option of looking at the architecture. So if you go to this designer, your CloudFormation will automatically convert that code to the architecture. So here you should be able to see the architecture as to where is that? Yeah. So here you see. Cool. I just saw that. So this is the code we have uploaded. And what's this? Okay, so it's very small. So here you see. Okay. So here, this is what we have. And this is the architecture that is coming because of the code that we have written over here. All right. So we have a security group, and this security group, we are launching it to this instance. That's it. Pretty much very straightforward. So next, we give a name to this. So EC2 demo, and here are the parameters. Now, whatever the parameters you have provided, those will be available over here. So that's the AMI ID, instance type, your key pair, the subnet where you want to launch this. Next, um, if your CloudFormation needs any IAM permission, you can give that. This is your rollback. So by default, if your CloudFormation errors out, by default it will roll back. So it will delete all the resources. Or if you don't want that, if you want to preserve the successfully created resources, you can do it. But by default, if anything fails, it will delete everything for us. This will be a policy. So you can give the permissions. This will rollback configuration. So you can monitor this. So CloudWatch alarm, how much time it is taking, and all those things. This will be your notifications to whom you want to send out the notifications, and these are the options. So you can set a timeout as well. So how much time your CloudFormation should take to create the resources. Next, you get to review everything and then click on submit. And the moment you do a submit, this will start creating the resources. So this will start executing the code for us. So whatever the code we have written, it will start executing that and it will start creating the resources for us. So here you can refresh this and you should be able to see, so you can see security group create complete. So that means your security group has been created. Let me refresh this once again. And now you can see this is launching the EC2 instance for me. So if I go to that security group, I should be able to see a new security group. So this one, if you see, this is what I've created. Now, how do I say this is the one I created? If you go back to the CloudFormation, under this resources, you should be able to see the resources ID. So you can see this one, right? So likewise, that's the instance ID. So this is ending with 610. So if I go to the instances, I should be able to see a new instance ending with 610. So that's what your infrastructure as code does. So now at any point, I need an instance. I will simply go and execute that code, which will launch an EC2 instance for me. Questions?
No, sir.
Now, the other advantage you have is at any point, if you want to delete these resources, all you have to do is just go and delete that stack. Okay, so what are the stack you have created? This one. This is still, okay, so this is completed, right? So now what are the stack you have created? All you have to do is just go and delete this. And whatever the resources that were created as part of this template, all those resources will be deleted for us. So that's pretty much what your cloud formation is. So it's simply your infrastructure as code. So you can write some piece of code, and that code will set up the infrastructure for you. You don't have to manually manage the infrastructure. The cloud formation will take care of all those things.
So
So
even if we have a template, like can we create a CloudWatch dashboard also?
cloud, anything you want to do in AWS. So whatever we
Okay.
have done until now manually,
Okay.
everything can be done using cloud formation. So let's say formation for CloudWatch. So like I said, there's a documentation available for this, right? So you can see here this dashboard thing. We can use that. So this is for creating a dashboard, and you will have examples available for this. Obviously, let me show. Yeah, so this is for your CloudWatch. So this is creating alarm. This is creating. Yeah, that's the dash. That's the syntax. So you can see dashboard body, dashboard name. That's the JSON. That's the YAML. And for more information on the syntax, you can have a look at this. So something like what all do you want to monitor? So you can see
Okay.
start, average, in which region, then live data, type of data, width, height, time series. So everything you can define it in the cloud formation, and when you execute that, your cloud formation will create that dashboard for you.
Okay.
So you have it for your logs as well. So you can see
Okay.
creating a log group. So this is for creating a new log group. This
Mm-hmm.
is JSON, this is YAML, and here you have the examples available. Uh, this will be, I mean, likewise, we have different things. So
Okay.
basically, anything you want to do, any resources you want to work with, you can make use of your cloud formation for that.
Okay. Even like can we mount EFS storage also?
Yeah. Obviously. So if I look for EFS over here, uh, so, um, let me see EFS. Okay, so there's your elastic file system, and here you can see mount target. This
Okay.
is for mounting. So, uh, yeah. So here is your YAML. So file system ID will be your ID. So which subnet security groups you mount. So
Mm.
mm, this is for wait. Creation. Where is your access point? Mount target. Uh, Mount is there. That is for mounting though, but looks like it is missing something. It's missing something. Yeah, I don't see complete. Obviously, it does not show confirmation to create this. Here we have it. So this is to create the file system. So this one will create a new empty file system, all right?
Mm-hmm.
And then so this is only for creating it. Create, yeah, this is only for creating it. And then template to mount EFS. Mount target is what we'll be using for mounting. But yeah, I mean, to answer your question, see, everything can be done. So here
Oh.
we'll do system ID, where you want to mount it, and all those things. And obviously, from
Mm-hmm.
your mount point, actually, you do it from the instance, right? So I see. Okay. So that one, so you'll have to log into that instance and then do the mounting. So for that, you'll be writing a shell scripting or a Windows PowerShell scripting for that, because that is
Oh.
something you're doing inside the server,
Okay.
right? So
We
that will
have
be
to use
slightly.
CLI, right? Command
Uh-huh.
line. We have to use command line and then we have to mount, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No.
All right. Sorry, guys, I'll have to drop here. I think someone is already pinging, so I'll have to see. But I have one more example which I'll be showing tomorrow. So tomorrow you guys are available?
Yes, sir, we are available.
Yeah.
All right. So tomorrow also we'll have this session. I'll show you one more example, a little more complex thing where we will create a VPC, we'll create subnets. So everything as part of your VPC, whatever we have, we will create that and we'll also launch an instance. So a little more complex example. I will show that tomorrow, and there's
Okay.
one more topic that I have. So we will do it tomorrow. Okay. So I will show this example, one more example tomorrow once again, and we'll start off with the new service as well. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you.
so much. See you
Thank you, sir.
tomorrow.